I'm Spurge.
Hey, I'm Brandon.
And regardless of your skill level, if you ride off-road, then sooner or later, you're gonna have to know how to turn your bike around on a trail.
That's absolutely right. Now, if the trail is wide enough, you can always do a 3-point turn or what's referred to as a K-turn. You're gonna see that commonly with the ADV bikes out there using the edge of the trail and gravity in your favor. However, as that trail begins to tighten up, you're gonna want to implement one of the 3 techniques we're gonna go over today, which are gonna range from easy up to the hard stuff, which is obviously gonna be a bit more technical.
The Kickstand U-Turn is the easiest place to start for beginner riders. And exactly as the name implies, you're gonna utilize your motorcycle's kickstand to get the bike turned around. So the first step is to dismount the bike and deploy the kickstand. Second step, you wanna pivot the weight of the bike on the kickstand using your body to support the weight. Step 3, while you're balancing the weight of the bike on the kickstand, spin the bike counterclockwise until it's pointed in the desired direction. So the benefit of this maneuver is that it requires minimal effort and it's easy to master. The downside is you run the risk of damaging your kickstand, especially if you're riding a KTM or Husky motorcycle. So to avoid that risk, let's consider the riding U-turn.
The riding U-turn must be performed with the bike running. You're actually gonna use the power of the engine to kick that rear end around and get you headed towards the direction you wanna be going. Because of that, we're gonna go ahead and have Spurgeon fire that thing up. To get things started, pull in the clutch and get the bike in first gear. Take your left or your right leg off of the bike and plant it firmly on the ground. You're gonna lean the weight of the bike against your planted leg while turning the handlebar all the way towards the direction you wanna be headed. With the clutch engaged, hold the throttle at about quarter turn so it's spinning well above idle. Release the clutch quickly in a smooth motion while leaving your fingers on the lever. That rear wheel is going to rotate and push the bike around. Once it's pointing in the direction you want to be headed, pull in the clutch to cut the power to the rear wheel. Now, as you start practicing this maneuver, start by feathering the clutch in and out. That's going to give you a better idea of how the bike's going to react and where the power is going to come into play. Now, if you're performing this on a larger ADV bike, or perhaps you simply don't feel comfortable with this maneuver, you can always hop off of the bike and use the full weight of your body to leverage the maneuver. Now, personally, I feel like it's a little bit more challenging to do that, but I can see its benefits on those larger ADV bikes, or perhaps if you're off camber. Now, the riding U-turn is going to be a great option because it's going to limit the risk of damage to the rider as well as the bike. However, it is going to have its limitations when you get on that tighter single track, and that's where that pivot U-turn is going to come into play.
The pivot turn is performed without dismounting from the motorcycle and it's going to require a good deal of throttle and clutch control as well as balance. What you're going to see here could almost be described as a stationary wheelie, and because of this, it is going to be the most difficult of the 3 maneuvers to master. So we would definitely recommend practicing this in an open area before trying it out on the trail. Step 1, set up for the correct body position. With this move, you want your weight far enough back to allow the front of the wheel to come quickly off the ground. We find that this is best achieved by moving your butt to the rearmost portion of the seat. Step 2, you'll want your left foot on the ground balancing the weight of the bike with your right foot covering the rear brake. Remember, in any type of wheelie maneuver, your rear brake is there for control. If you feel things going sideways, press the rear brake to bring the front wheel back to the ground. Next, you're going to engage the clutch and you want to shift the bike into first gear. At this point, you want to leverage your weight to compress the front suspension. As the suspension decompresses, you want to simultaneously release the clutch and engage the throttle. You want to do this in one fluid motion, which will bring the front wheel straight up. Special note here, every bike is going to require a different amount of throttle input to correctly perform this maneuver. We would recommend starting somewhere around a quarter of a turn to get that front wheel off the ground, and then add a little bit of throttle in or take a little bit out depending on your bike. That being said, we got a few more steps to tackle to wrap up this maneuver, so let's get back to Brandon. When the wheel is lifting, use the weight of your body as a ballast to balance the bike onto the rear wheel. And in one smooth motion, use the weight of your body along with your arms to maneuver the bike in a counterclockwise rotation. Now, once the bike is facing the correct direction, this is where you're going to use your rear brake to set that front wheel down into place. Now, as you work on this, we would recommend just going ahead and practicing lifting that front end off the ground in a straight line before incorporating the turn itself. You're also going to want to practice using that rear brake to bring the front end down to the ground. You want to get to the point where you're just instinctively reaching for that rear brake pedal. Remember, it's your biggest control device in these low speed maneuvers.
So there you have it, 3 different techniques for getting yourself turned around when you're out there riding on the tight trails.
Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and perhaps you even learned something, a skill that you can practice the next time you find yourself riding off-road with your friends. To keep up with all the content we have at RevZilla, make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube. Now on behalf of RevZilla, I'm Spurge.
I'm Brandon.
Enjoy the ride. Woo!